Carousel, back in action. And I'll be coming at you today with the craziest coaching carousel we have seen in our lifetimes, at least if you're a young millennial like myself. Never quite seen one like this. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. Lane Kiffin, the ultimate toxic playboy alpha male. Was he or was he not in the wrong on this one? Either way, he wins again, because apparently that's just what Lane Kiffin does. He's just a winner at life, apparently. We got a lot of Auburn fans in here. I know I've prophesied about the downfall of Auburn and everything over the last 4 years that's happened. I prophesied would happen, but I think destiny finally spat in Auburn's face and said, no, you're going to stop being stupid. You're going to stop fucking up your big potential program, and you are going to win. And destiny shook Auburn down. It took all of its bad ideas and stripped it away. It said, no, you can't have this. You can't do this. You can't screw this up. You're going to be serious about football. And Auburn, for the first time in over 60 years, or more, honestly, has finally made a serious and intelligent football hire. That's insane. Ole Miss, kind of a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction there. Not sure I would have just gave the keys to Pete Golding, but that's a two-sided coin. We'll get into that when we get to the Ole Miss part. Penn State is still searching, and you know what? What I've heard out of Penn State's camp, they may know something that we don't know, because they have taken their time. They have leisurely strolled along. They haven't picked up their big bat and just swung at everything flying in the air. No, Penn State has taken their time. That's very unusual to me. Granted, also this is a program that doesn't have a lot of experience in coaching searches. They had Joe Pa forever, and then briefly had Bob, and then had James Franklin for the last 10, 11 years. Not very experienced in looking for a coach. So maybe, I don't know. We'll get to that when we get to it. And last but not least, the Florida Gators. Did they get played, or did destiny give them a fair trade? They've got Southern tough guy John Sumrall, another man on the list of Tulane coaches that are coming down through the pipeline and going on to bigger and better things. Maybe this is the bigger, better thing for, John Sumrall. Maybe he's just another G5 Billy. We'll get into it. And we're going to get into it right now. So first, we got to start off with the hottest topic of them all. Lane Kiffin. Kiffin at LSU is an absolute problem. LSU does, and they have the crazy culture. They have the crazy fan base. They have all the support in the world. You know, Louisiana loves their football. Louisiana kids love LSU. In-state recruiting is easy. In-state recruiting is stacked, loaded, and talented, especially at skill positions, which is what Lane Kiffin, as an offensive guy, you want your skill positions. Louisiana does produce really good defensive linemen, so you know what I'm saying. If he gets the right defensive coordinator, and their defense can also be an insane problem. LSU has needed a top-level guy. Brian Kelly is just pretty good. You know what I mean? There wasn't a home run hire. It was a decent bridge, maybe. You got the off the field damage that has occurred, so maybe not. But Brian, he's just pretty good. You know what I'm saying? What he is what he is. Not speaking about his off field antics, but just Brian Kelly in general. He's just kind of a normal football coach. He's gonna get you between 8-4, 10-2. really. Like, he did fit the older world, the older model of the game and how it was played. But there came a point where it was like, you know what? He's not really like this great coach. You know, he did what someone of his caliber would do. He did take a good situation, and he didn't really make it much better. LSU didn't get much better throughout Les Miles' tenure, and it wasn't much better than Nick Saban's LSU. He just kept it going. You know, what you're supposed to do. So, Kiffin, I think, has grown into a top-level coach. That remains to be seen, because now he does have a bigger job. The margin of error is slimmer at LSU. You know, they kind of expect the 9-3 floor. But for what Lane Kiffin is, and what his ceiling is starting to look like, it's going to be dangerous. So no more, shouldn't be any more cake rides for Bama and Georgia back to Atlanta. Well, I won't say any more cake rides, but it should be. There's someone else out there that could beat you, you know, in the conference. I mean, Kiffin was able to beat Georgia with Ole Miss. That's crazy. Bama can't beat Oklahoma anymore. Actually, you know what? I can't pull up the exact record on that, but I'm not sure they ever could. I think Oklahoma might own that series. But I know they've got 3 of the last 4. Bama absolutely murdered them in 2018 in the playoffs. It wasn't even close. They made like a late comeback, but no, Bama wasn't. Bama was like, we're good. We're already up by like 40 or something. But other than that, Stoops beat him on his way out. And then Venables just swept them in their in-conference home and home. So, Oklahoma's one to watch, honestly. But Venables being a separate video, yada yada yada. Regarding Kiffin, I think it's a great hire for LSU. I think it would have been a great fit for Florida. I think the only dirty part that Kiffin did was, I feel like he might have did Florida dirty. But what I understand from the situation with Ole Miss is he was very transparent. I could be wrong. This is the information I have on the entire ordeal, is that he was pretty transparent with the team, coaching staff, and everybody, and Ole Miss is just mad because he let him know. He was like, well, I might leave. And I've been telling you to boost my resources for years, so I might leave. And now he's leaving. They're like, wait! It was supposed to be a maybe, turned no. Not a yes. So then it's a yes. Florida, I don't know. It seemed like all things were pointing towards Lane Kiffin to Florida, and it didn't happen. LSU came in and swooped it away. I think it's a good fit for Florida. I think it's exactly what Florida needed to get the faucet turned back on. But obviously that is not the case now. They have John Summerall, and Kiffin take his high-powered offense and pedigree and experience to a place like LSU. So that brings me to the Auburn Tigers. The fact that after all this time, you guys have heard me over the years preaching about the prophecy, and like I said, everything in my prophecy came to life. All of it. But it seems like destiny has finally taken Auburn by the throat and said, you can't suck anymore. College football, you are an agent of chaos, and college football thrives on chaos. We cannot have chaos if you fucking suck. So stop doing dumb shit. Stop hiring coaches that are 3-8 when they leave their job, or 5-19 when they leave their job, or who wrote a book about their own demise for the job. Or, we won't get all the way into what Hugh Freeze qualifies, or someone that's just a hard ass that's not from the area, even though I still think Brian Harsin could work. But stop doing dumb shit, Auburn. Just one year. Just try and win. Try and build a competent program and stop holding yourself back. Auburn tried to hold itself back again. It didn't know who it wanted to hire. It started to fumble John Sumrall, a rising star from the Tulane coaching space. And it fucked up. It fumbled Sumrall. Ole Miss got back in the mix for John Sumrall. And ultimately, Florida landed John Sumrall. But the prospect that everybody should have been going after all along was Alex Golesh. And through Auburn's attempts at failing another coaching search, they finally, on paper, succeeded, or at the very, very minimum, made an intelligent hire. They hired a coach that should actually have success at the program. I said it again. Auburn made a decision. They signed the papers. They made a phone call, signed the papers, and got a coach who should actually have success and win important football games. That's never been done before. Not at Auburn. Not at Auburn. But they finally got a guy, a young, rising star, competent offensive mind, he's really juiced up guy, innovative offenses that have performed well every year. Despite the record, the numbers are there. They finally got a football coach. Not a gimmick, not just someone to prop up the image of being a Southern gentleman. They got a football coach who can coach football games. It's a concept that for some reason this backwards administration has never wanted to do. They have always wanted an image or a gimmick, and it's failed every time. It has created a team with an 8-4, a football program with an 8-4 average all time. So when people make fun of Auburn and say, well, it's an 8-4 program, it's a loser program, that's not an exaggeration, it's not a joke. That's just what it is. Possibly until now. Will this be a home run? Will it work or not? I don't know, but at least fans can say, for the first time ever, well, that failed. At least it was a good try. At least it was a good try. Auburn fans have never been able to say that before. They have never made a good try. They have always tried. They have attempted failure and succeeded. But sometimes, in spite of themselves, not succeeded. So Auburn football is finally in place where it has a chance to be better than 8-4 because they made an intelligent hire. Is he taking the world by storm or anything? Like, no, we didn't have USF playing in these conference championship games and everything. But his pedigree, first, most importantly, he's a Buckeye, so you know he's a winner by nature. He's Russian-born, spent time in New York, graduated from the Ohio State Buckeyes University of the Buckeye. And Auburn's been on the offensive kick for a long time. It might finally pay off. This is finally a hire. If it fails, you can say, well, you know what? Remember when Tennessee hired Butch Jones? Well, he was trending in the right direction. He was kind of a young rising star, and it failed. At least you tried. At least you tried. Not like Derek Dooley. It's like, this probably isn't going to work. And then it doesn't. So Auburn fans should be happy. They finally got a guy that's needed to give extra juice to the program and do all those other things. He does have a lot of room to grow, but he is one of the rising stars in college football. So, and like I said, they tried very, very hard. He was very far down the list. very far down the list of Auburn candidates, but finally, accidentally, as it typically tends to happen with Auburn, I think they just accidentally succeeded. Time will tell. Time will tell. But the odds are in Auburn's favor that they've accidentally hit the jackpot. Jackpot might be a strong word, but Auburn's a program with potential. Auburn's a program with potential, big potential. But as you all know, it's not Georgia, it's not Alabama. The ones who fuck up Auburn is Auburn. We'll see. Interesting shakeup. What does Auburn football look like with a football coach? We're going to find out in these next 3 years. Next, we move on to our dear Florida Gators, who were the victims of a Lane Kiffin affair. You hate it. And really, it's a loss for not just Florida, but for everyone. Because Lane Kiffin at Florida would have been one of the most fun things we could have witnessed as college football fans. It could have been 90s Spurrier or 2K Urban all over again. But it was not to be, and Florida gets a kind of posted an impressive record at Tulane. Tulane's had a couple good coaches here in this this post-COVID decade, and John Sumrall brings kind of the old school tough guy thing. He does have a bit of a personality. I think you do have to have a bit of a personality. You have to have swagger to coach at Florida to make Florida a better place. Billy didn't bring that. I think there is a power forward job for Billy Napier to succeed at. I think there's a power forward job where he belongs, and Billy has the vision. He very briefly spent time at Bama, but he got it. Billy has the vision. It takes Billy too long. He's expressed he has a long-term plan for how he wants to build a program, and there's not many programs that are willing to wait around for a long-term plan to develop. So Billy had to go. John Sumrall has had success everywhere he's been. Only been in the G5 level, but he's done good. He's an Alabama guy, so he brings that southern toughness. He knows the region. And now you have someone. Now you can go into Louisiana. You can go into New Orleans. And you can go toe-to-toe with LSU for a lot of these kids. That's very important. So Florida is already home to a bunch of super freaks out the gate. But you add those super freaks to Louisiana super freaks, and you don't have to go very far for recruiting now. Sumrall, a home run hire, an ace hire, a bing bang boom, knock it out of the park hire. I'm not really feeling it on that level. A good hire to stabilize the program and get you where you need to be, or get you set up for success where you can hopefully do what Georgia did with Mark Richt, or LSU with Les Miles, what Penn State is trying to do with James Franklin, where you get someone that builds you up to the point where you're like, man, you are just so good, but you're not great. And I think you brought us as far as you can bring us. And it's time for us to go chase excellence, not stability. So you always look for that in programs. Because very often, it's hard to just find the guy that pops. Doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of times it's a slower build to where you need to be. And this might be one of those times. Maybe John Sumrall is that. Florida's a place where results are expected instantly. I think he can get it instantly, but it's also a place that expects championships. So lots to see with John Sumrall. See where this goes. But I mentioned Penn State. I mentioned Penn State, and I'm not sure what to think of this coaching search. It's either A, how it appears, that nobody wants the job, or Penn State is not willing to do what it takes to get whomever the job, which is a problem. Or the latter, Penn State has somebody, and they have a big secret that they're not telling anybody. That they know something that we don't know. Bill Chesney. Bill Chesney. Damn it. Jordan, if you listen to this podcast, I fucked up his name again. Chesney has taken UCLA job, I believe. He was kind of a under the radar type of guy. The BYU coach has turned the job down, which it's common. We see tier 3 jobs and tier 4 jobs are retaining coaches now. Vanderbilt just, locked their guy in. They used to, first chance you get out of Vanderbilt. But they've locked their guy in. Brian Hartline didn't get it. I'm not sure how serious that one really was in hindsight. For him to take the South Florida job, there's no way he picked South Florida over Penn State. Now with him being able to pull Florida kids at Ohio State, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to pull them at Penn State with his reputation and who and what he is. So for him to go down south at a smaller program, it's like I don't know if that was a legitimate thing, but it seems like all the options are just flying right by Penn State, and this is very confusing. Very confusing. It's got to be one or the other. Either they have a big secret that only they know and they've got a home run hire waiting in the bank, or Penn State is floating in purgatory and they really don't know if they're going to get a new coach. Get a new good coach. So, Penn State. And finally, we get down to Ole Miss. I don't know. Ole Miss, I feel like they just fucked up. Either that's just it was a really knee-jerk reaction to hire Pete Golding full-time. We have no idea what the fuck Pete Golding is as a head coach. And coordinator and head coach are two different jobs. But Pete Golding's not a good defensive coordinator. So there's something about being adept at what you do, and you look at relationships and management skills when you're looking at coordinators, how they interact with everybody. I don't know much about that with Pete Golding. I'm not sure many people do, but that seems like a real knee-jerk. I don't know. Ole Miss about to go straight to hell, more than likely, unless he's like Dabo and he's just got it as a head coach. But I don't know, man. I don't know. But next 3 years, we'll all find out, and we'll see what Penn State does with their coaching situation, all of that. So, either way, we shall see. We shall see. So, catch you guys next time. Carousel out.